The smell of smoke reached him before the sirens did, sharp and bitter, cutting through the ordinary sounds of a busy morning, and in that instant ROI Salim knew that whatever waited ahead would change his life forever. He was halfway across the street, sun high above the glass buildings, when he saw flames licking out of an upper-floor window, black smoke pouring into the clear daytime sky, and people screaming below, pointing upward in panic. His first thought was not fear, not even curiosity, but the image of his daughter's face when she slept, her small chest rising and falling, trusting him to come home every night. Still, his feet moved before his mind could argue, carrying him toward the burning building as if pulled by something stronger than survival instinct. If you believe that kindness deserves second chances, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Kindness Journal, because stories like this exist to remind us that compassion can change lives in ways we never expect. ROIs had not always been the man rushing toward danger with nothing but instinct and a worn-out jacket. Once, he had been a respected operations supervisor at a powerful technology firm housed in the very building now on fire. Back then, mornings were predictable, filled with coffee meetings, polished shoes, and the quiet confidence of a man who believed he was building a stable future. That future collapsed on a bright afternoon when a sudden restructuring meeting ended with his badge collected, his email locked, and a cold explanation about downsizing delivered without hesitation. The decision had come from the very top, signed by a CEO he had never met in person, and it erased years of dedication in a single sentence. 2 months later, his wife died after a sudden illness, leaving him alone with a 6-year-old daughter and a stack of bills that grew heavier every week. Since then, ROI's days had become a careful balancing act of temporary jobs, early mornings, and silent worries he never voiced in front of his child. He worked nights at a warehouse, afternoons delivering groceries, and mornings walking her to school before heading out to search for something better. He passed that building often, its clean glass reflecting sunlight, a reminder of what he had lost. Yet even now, as flames roared inside it, bitterness did not stop him. He reached the entrance where security guards hesitated, overwhelmed, and before anyone could stop him, he rushed inside, the heat slamming into him like a wall. The stairwell was thick with smoke, daylight fading as he climbed. Every breath burned, and his heart pounded louder than the alarms screaming through the building. He remembered fire safety training from years ago, fragments of instructions floating through his mind, and he followed the sound of coughing above him. On the 12th floor, he saw her collapse near a conference room door, unconscious, surrounded by flames that crawled along the carpet. She was dressed in a simple business outfit, her face streaked with soot, hair pulled back neatly despite the chaos. Without thinking about who she was or why she mattered, ROIs wrapped his jacket around her head, lifted her with all the strength fear could summon, and carried her back toward the stairs. The descent felt endless. Smoke thickened, heat intensified, and his vision blurred as his lungs fought for air. He stumbled, nearly falling, but the weight in his arms reminded him that giving up was not an option. Somewhere behind them, part of the ceiling collapsed, sending sparks into the stairwell, and he shielded her with his body, feeling the sting of heat across his back. By the time he burst out into daylight, firefighters were finally taking control, hoses spraying water as crowds cheered and cried in relief. ROIs laid the woman gently on the pavement, coughing violently, his legs shaking as medics rushed in. Oxygen masks were pressed over their faces. ROIs heard someone shout a name, sharp with fear and recognition. It was then, through the haze of smoke and exhaustion, that he saw the company logo on her badge, half melted but still readable. When the medics turned her slightly, revealing her face more clearly, his stomach dropped. He knew that face from press releases, from internal announcements, from the signature at the bottom of the email that had ended his career. Her name was Samira Voss, the CEO who had approved his termination without ever knowing the cost. The realization hit him harder than the smoke ever had. He sat there on the curb, sirens wailing around him, hands blackened with soot, wondering how the world could twist itself so cruelly. He had just risked his life for the woman who had unknowingly set him on a path of loss and struggle. No one around him knew this irony, and perhaps that made it heavier. As firefighters praised him and reporters took photos, ROI slipped away quietly, refusing interviews, catching a bus home as if nothing extraordinary had happened. At home, his daughter, Mira, ran into his arms, asking why his clothes smelled strange. He held her tighter than usual, his heart aching with gratitude and confusion. That night, as he washed soot from his skin, he thought about how close he had come to not returning at all, and how easily anger could have kept him from acting. He told himself that he had done it for the same reason he always did the right thing, because someday his daughter would learn not from his words, but from his choices. Days passed, and news of the rescue spread. Social media clips showed a blurry figure carrying a woman through smoke, headlines praised a brave stranger, and the company released a statement thanking an unnamed hero. Arise returned to his routine, delivering groceries under the sun, his body still sore, his mind trying to make peace with the memory. He expected nothing to change, and perhaps that acceptance was what made the knock on his door so shocking. A company car waited outside, sleek and polished, a contrast to his modest apartment building. A representative explained that Samira Voss had woken in the hospital, had been told who saved her, and had insisted on meeting him personally. Arise hesitated, fear and resentment battling inside him, but curiosity and a sense of closure pushed him forward. He agreed to come. The meeting took place in a temporary office set up during renovations, daylight streaming through large windows as if emphasizing transparency. Samira looked different outside the controlled images of media, her expression softer, marked by exhaustion and gratitude. She listened as Arise spoke about his life since the layoff, about his wife's death, about raising his daughter alone, not accusing, not begging, just telling the truth he had carried silently. The weight of his words seemed to settle heavily on her, and for the first time, the consequences of a distant decision became painfully real. Samira explained that the restructuring had been based on numbers, projections, efficiency charts, never faces or families. The fire, she said, had stripped away illusions of control and importance, leaving only the reality that life was fragile and interconnected. She admitted that waking up to find herself alive because of a man she had indirectly harmed had shaken her more than the flames ever could. It forced her to confront the responsibility that came with her power. What followed was not an instant miracle, but a sincere attempt at repair. Samira offered Arise not just his old position, but a new role shaping company policies around employee welfare, flexible work, and emergency support for families. She insisted it was not charity, but recognition of his integrity, leadership, and courage. Arise did not accept immediately. He went home, talked with Mira about choices and forgiveness in simple terms, and spent a sleepless night weighing pride against opportunity. In the end, he returned to that sunlit office and accepted, not because of what he had lost, but because of what he could help build. He wanted a workplace where decisions considered human lives, where a single parent would not be left adrift without support. As weeks turned into months, Arise became a quiet force of change within the company, advocating for others who had once been invisible. His story became a reminder whispered through hallways, a lesson written not in policy manuals, but in lived experience. One afternoon, as Arise picked up Mira from school, she asked him why he always helped people even when they hurt him. He knelt beside her, sunlight warming the pavement, and explained that kindness was not a reward, but a choice, one that could turn pain into something meaningful. She smiled, satisfied, and skipped ahead, unaware of how deeply those words would shape her future. If this story has touched your heart, if it has reminded you that compassion can rewrite even the harshest chapters of our lives, please take a moment to like, share, and support this video, because your engagement helps stories like this reach others who need hope. And before this story ends, a special request from the heart. Please comment below and share what kindness or forgiveness means to you. Because your words might inspire someone reading silently today. As Arise watched the city skyline glow under the afternoon sun, he understood that saving Samira from the fire had also saved something within himself, a belief that doing the right thing mattered, even when the world seemed unfair. In choosing courage over bitterness, he had given his daughter a legacy far greater than security, the example of a heart that refused to harden, proving that sometimes, the most unexpected second chances are born from the flames we survive.